What are your reflections as we come to the end of this night where we have this big legislative victory by Joe Biden, this promise of a fully vaccinated country, and this delivery by the signing of that bill today of a massive surge of economic aid in real money to people who need it?
Hope and history really do rhyme sometimes, as that poem says. You know, today is the 1 year anniversary, as you know, of the declaration of the pandemic that launched this year for all of us. And fittingly, it's the eve of the 88th anniversary of FDR's first fireside chat, which I thought was kind of interesting. And this year that Joe Biden spoke about tonight was a year not of one story, but many, right? It was a story, obviously, of illness and death and pain, but also a story of protest, extraordinary protest, of bravery, of mutual aid, of invention, of resilience. It was a year marked by this pandemic, but also by a lot of intersecting crises that intersected with it: health, economic, racial, democratic crisis. Remember when we thought we might not still have the rule of law? As Texas and other places illustrate, climate still very much with us. And coming out of this year, what I have been thinking about is, if there is a gift of this cursed year, it is the end to any illusion that we had been living right. And the prompting to not just rebuild, as we've heard this president talk about, which is important, but also to rethink. And so when I was, processing the making of this sausage of legislation that was signed today, at first, probably like a lot of people watching this, I was dismayed by a lot of things I was hearing and reading, right? Minimum wage was in, then it was out. Benefits were bigger than they were smaller. And it seemed like this thing that, Prime Minister Joe Manchin was prevailing. And as I dug into the details of the final package, I actually began to revise my own sense of it. And I think a lot of people have, and started to realize that it's not perfect. It's not everything. A lot of it's not permanent, which we need to deal with. But a lot of this is quietly revolutionary. Starting with the child benefit that creates the rudiments of a basic income for families in this country, direct cash to families, changes in the tax code that, shock of all shocks, after 40 years of the reverse, actually most benefit the poor. And what a lot of these things, talking about tying things together, what they seem to have in common to me is that they reflect not just new policies, but new thinking, rethinking. In particular, the new notion that has been gaining ground of giving people money directly. It's been advocated by lots of people. This policy, this program reflects it. The idea of centering the poor, not just the middle class. Joe Biden talks a lot about the middle class. Democrats often don't like to talk about the poor because they're scared of losing the white working class voters who resent the poor. This bill centers the poor. This bill and this administration and its economic policy has actually shown a little bit of a cold shoulder to some of the Wall Streeters who've shaped these kinds of responses in the past. This is not a Larry Summers, Robert Rubin administration, which makes it decisively different from the Obama and Clinton years. And finally, ignoring the deficit worrywarts. This is not a program that reflects their influence. So what I'm seeing is early days, but what I'm seeing is the hulking ship of American conventional wisdom on these matters beginning to turn. And I would say, as reflected in the tone of the president tonight, who's not someone who I have always seen eye to eye with at all. But I see a president whose most singular capacity is his capacity to be influenced, a desire to be pushed, a desire to meet this moment potentially. And I see him and a country potentially waking up to new truths.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank all of you out there.
Thank you as always.
Thanks to you at home.
Thanks for watching.
Thank you so much for letting us into your homes during these extraordinary times.